Hey everyone, it's Dave. Thanks for tuning in as always. Today I wanted to check in quickly on Rocket Lab stock and talk about the Archimedes HotFire situation because it seems like there's been a lot of people getting more and more concerned about the lack of HotFire so far, and obviously the stock did have a bad couple days as well, which didn't help the general sentiment around the company. Also, it's just been a few days since my last Rocket Lab video and I felt like I was overdue. Before we dive into talking about Archimedes and Neutron, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button down below. It helps out a lot with continuing to grow the channel. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dive into Rocket Lab's Archimedes. So, as most of you will probably already know, Rocket Lab's Adam Spice said that he thought they would have their first HotFire of the Archimedes engine by the end of the quarter, which has just finished, and we haven't seen any videos or pictures of that engine firing, so there's understandably been a lot of concern and questions around the progress of Archimedes, which is really probably the item that is delaying Neutron the most, at least seemingly from the outside. And I did just have a couple thoughts about this. Obviously, here's a picture of the stock chart. No one enjoys it when we drop from 4.9 to around 4.5 in a matter of a couple days, which is what Rocket Lab did. But in the long run, over the past several months, things are still pretty good. We're up from around 3.5 to 4.7 in quite a short period of time. So it's really hard to complain about that. Sometimes you do just have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture a little bit. Speaking about that bigger picture here, I know a lot of us, I think, are very used to Rocket Lab hitting their timelines and what they tell us on predictions, at least when it comes to, well, maybe not timelines, but hitting their numbers on predictions. Like on their earnings calls, it's very rare for them to have a miss. They do have a motto where they say, do what you said you were going to do. And so we all have an expectation of them delivering on what they promised, and this was obviously a miss, or at least it appears to be. So yes, there's some concerns there. The other thing to remember, though, is just because we haven't seen the pictures doesn't mean for sure it hasn't happened. They could have just not released them, so that's always a possibility. But assuming that the HotFire has not yet occurred, a few things to keep in mind here. This picture is part of the article Rocket Lab released when they announced that Archimedes, the first engine build, was complete, and it was already at the test stand at Stennis, getting ready for that test campaign. So the highlighted section here is that having a completed Archimedes engine on the test stand is an inflection point in Neutron's development program, and they've entered the home stretch where we breathe fire and refine engine preparation for the first flight. Now, as you can see from this tweet here, this news came out on May 6th. So I thought it would be interesting to do a little comparison. Stoke Space, another new space company working on a brand new engine, a very complicated, high-performing engine from everything we've been told. However, they are a little bit ahead of Rocket Lab, at least on engine development, and they did share on April 5th that their new engine was at the test stand for the first time. So I figured it would be a good comparison to see how long it took Stoke to go arriving and getting installed at the test stand to when they actually first fired. See, is Rocket Lab really that far behind here? What I found was that if you jump to the announcement of their first HotFire here, we're looking at June 11th, 2024. By the way, that engine looks amazing, and Stoke does look like a very impressive company, so kudos to them on this impressive milestone. But for the comparison's sake, we're talking about 67 days from April 5th to June 11th. Now, if you look at Rocket Lab from the announcement of the Rutherford being at the test stand to today, we're talking 58 days. So they haven't even yet taken longer than Stoke did to get their first fire up and running. So even though they did give us a timeline that they thought they could get it done by being the end of the quarter, and that doesn't appear to have happened, it doesn't seem like they're they're being a lot slower than the average or the competition or, you know, any other companies. Because honestly, Stoke is an incredibly impressive company, and they haven't even surpassed that timeline yet. So I think we all have to calm down a little bit and don't worry quite so much about this timeline and when that first fire happens. The other thing to keep in mind here that may have impacted Rocket Lab's progress, I don't really know how much of an impact this may have been, but there was a contractor union at NASA's Stennis where Rocket Lab is going to be doing their test firing that had a strike for 5 days before they finally did receive a wage increase. So it is plausible to me that this strike could have had an impact on Rocket Lab's progress as well. There was one article, though, that did have me a bit more worried than the lack of HotFire yet at Stennis. That's actually an interview Peter Beck did with Eric Berger just recently from Ars Technica. Eric, one of the best space reporters in the business. He was asked about Neutron progress and asking if they would still be able to get that first launch off in 2025. After we had that delay from 2024 to 2025, I thought that, you know, the 2025 timeline should be quite safe because they've already added an extra 6 months or so to the timeline. But this answer kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. Peter Beck saying, look, we're pushing hard. We always run pretty aggressive schedules. It's just the way the company is. We tell everyone the date is 2025, but it's a rocket program, right? So, and then continuing on down below, the date is tight, of course, but that's the way we roll. There's nothing fundamental from preventing us achieving it. So the answer to this question doesn't fill me with confidence that they're going to launch in 2025. And to be frank, concerns me a bit more than the HotFire getting pushed a few days out of this past quarter. Let me know how you read this, if this makes you less confident that we're going to be seeing a Neutron launch in 2025, because this one at least has shaken my confidence a little bit in the timelines. So that's where we stand today and why I think you shouldn't be super worried about Archimedes not having fired yet. As I said previously, in terms of the psychology of being a Rocket Lab investor, I think we need to try and divorce the Neutron timelines given to us from our expectations on hitting quarterly numbers and some other stuff they provide us that they're very good about. We heard in that interview that Peter Beck sets extremely aggressive timelines for Neutron. We already saw that they missed that end of 2024 launch date, and apparently this mid-2025 launch date is still very aggressive from where they are today. So I think we need to understand that it's much more probable that these launch dates get pushed back than, say, what we usually see on earnings calls where they almost always hit or beat their numbers. And that just takes a bit of getting used to. And, you know, we're not used to misses from Rocket Lab, so everyone starts to freak out a little bit when it does happen. On the plus side, though, at least the stock has bounced back a little bit. We're up to 4.7-ish after that downturn, and everything else around the company is in general looking pretty good. So let me know down below, what are you more upset about? The interview and the implication that the 2025, mid-2025 launch window is still very tight, or the fact that we haven't seen the fire from Stennis as of yet? Do you think it's likely that they've actually already completed their first firing and they're just waiting to the earnings call or some other event to share that information with us? And how are you feeling about your stock in general right now? I'm just curious to hear, because I know there is a lot of, I guess angst might be the right word, or nervousness out there right now around Neutron. So really did just want to check in and have a discussion with you guys on that. Hope you do have a great day. I'll have another few videos for you quite soon, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.